After saving the millionaire's wife, a homeless man is invited to the wedding and leaves everyone shocked with his speech. Amanda had always been a cautious driver, but that night, her inexperience was put to the test. She was driving home after a long day at work. The road was deserted, and the falling rain made visibility even more difficult. As she approached the dangerous curve near the bridge, a feeling of apprehension took over her. The car's dashboard showed she was going 50 km/h, a reasonable speed for that road under normal conditions, but Amanda knew she needed to slow down. The problem was that the curve was sharper than she remembered, and the wet asphalt made everything more slippery. "Slow down, Amanda," she whispered to herself, trying to stay calm. She began to brake, but the car skidded. "No, no, no!" she screamed as the vehicle slid out of control. Her heart was pounding, and the sound of the tires screeching on the asphalt filled her ears. The car broke through the bridge's guardrail, and in a moment of pure agony, Amanda felt the car plunge toward the river below. The impact with the water was brutal, and the sensation of drowning quickly overwhelmed her. She tried to free herself from the seatbelt, but darkness began to take over. That's when a figure appeared. A man with tattered clothes and a worn appearance dove into the water without hesitation. He reached Amanda, pulling her out of the car and bringing her to the surface. His strength was surprising, considering his frail appearance. She was semi-conscious when he pulled her to the riverbank. "Hang in there," he said in a raspy voice, trying to keep her warm while they waited for help. Amanda tried to see his face, but her vision was blurry. All she could discern was the kindness in his eyes before she blacked out completely. When she woke up in the hospital, her fiancé David was by her side. "Are you okay, my love?" he asked, holding her hand tightly. "Hi, I'm okay," Amanda replied, still feeling weak. "But what about the man who saved me? Where is he?" "No one knows," David said, visibly concerned. "He disappeared before the ambulance arrived, but thanks to him, you're alive." Amanda closed her eyes, trying to remember more details about her savior, but everything was a blur. "We need to find him, David. I need to thank him." David nodded, determined. "I'll find him, I promise." While Amanda recovered in the hospital, David started searching for the mysterious man who had saved his fiancée. He visited the area of the accident, talked to local residents and distributed flyers, hoping to find a clue. The descriptions varied, but one name came up repeatedly: Mark. Mark was a man living on the streets, known for being kind but reserved. David ventured into the darker parts of the city, asking everyone he met about Mark. The responses were vague, but an elderly woman selling flowers on a busy street corner gave him a valuable clue. "Mark is a good man," she said, adjusting the colorful scarf on her head. "He usually shows up here at night looking for something to eat." David thanked her and started waiting at that corner every night. He brought food and clothes, hoping to attract Mark. Finally, after several nights of waiting, he saw a familiar figure approaching. "Mark?" called David, approaching cautiously. The man stopped and looked at him warily. "Who's asking?" Mark replied, his clothes dirty and his face marked by the harsh life on the streets. "My name is David. My fiancée Amanda told me you saved her from an accident." "I just want to thank you," said David, extending a bag of food. Mark hesitated, but hunger prevailed. He took the food and began to eat, still cautious. "I didn't do anything special. I was just in the right place at the right time." "To us, you did a lot," said David sincerely. "Amanda wants to thank you personally, and I want to help you if you'll let me." Mark looked at him in surprise. "Help? Why would someone like you help someone like me?" "Because you saved the most important person in my life," David replied firmly, "and because everyone deserves a chance." Mark was silent for a moment, fighting against the distrust that had settled in him after years of hardship. Finally, he nodded. "All right. Let's see this, Amanda." David took Mark to the hospital, where Amanda was eager to meet her savior. When she saw him, her eyes filled with tears. "You saved my life. I don't know how to thank you," she said, emotional. Mark gave a shy smile. "You're already thanking me just by being okay." David watched the interaction and felt an immediate connection with Mark. He knew he couldn't let this man go back to the streets. "Mark, I want to help you rebuild your life. Please, let me do this." Mark looked at David and Amanda, feeling a hope he hadn't felt in years. "I accept. Thank you." David wasted no time. He used his connections and resources to find a place for Mark to stay, offering him a small apartment and a job at his company. Mark was reluctant at first, but the insistence and kindness of David and Amanda convinced him that he deserved a second chance. Mark's first day at his new job was a mix of nervousness and excitement. He had worked before, but the circumstances that led him to the streets were dark and full of injustices. David introduced him to everyone at the company, ensuring he was treated with respect. "This is Mark, our new colleague," said David, introducing him to the employees. "He has an incredible story and a lot of determination. Let's give him all the support he needs." Mark began to adapt to the new routine. He learned quickly and dedicated himself to the work fervently. The team, initially skeptical, soon saw Mark's value and work ethic. David was proud of how Mark was doing, but he knew that social integration was just the first step. One day, David decided to invite Mark to dinner at his home. Amanda prepared a delicious meal, and they spent the evening talking and laughing. Mark, who hadn't felt the warm feeling of belonging to a home in a long time, began to open up more about his past. "I was an accountant," he said, looking at the cup of tea in his hands. "Worked at a reputable firm until an embezzlement happened. I was falsely accused and, without concrete proof to defend myself, lost everything." David and Amanda listened in silence, absorbing his story. "I ended up on the streets with no one to believe in me. Things went from bad to worse and I isolated myself. Until that night I saw your car fall into the river, Amanda." Amanda touched Mark's hand, offering comfort. "We're here for you now, and we'll do what we can to right that wrong." Over time, Mark began to gain confidence and make new friends. He even started attending a support group for those who had suffered similar injustices. David, determined to help more, hired a lawyer to reopen Mark's case and clear his name. The news of the new trial brought mixed emotions for Mark, but he was grateful to have friends like David and Amanda by his side. On the day of the hearing, he walked into the courtroom with his head held high, feeling a renewed strength. "Mr. Mark, how do you plead?" asked the judge. "Innocent, Your Honor." "And now I have proof to show it," Mark replied firmly. David and Amanda sat in the front row, offering all the moral support Mark needed. The legal battle was long and exhausting, but in the end, justice prevailed. Mark was declared innocent and his name was cleared. That night there was a celebration at David and Amanda's house. Mark, with a genuine smile on his face, thanked everyone for believing in him. "You've given me a new life, a new hope. I can never repay you enough." David smiled and put a hand on Mark's shoulder. "You've done more than enough. We're just happy to have you in our lives." As David and Amanda's wedding approached, their home was a flurry of activity and preparations. Amanda was immersed in last-minute details, while David handled the final arrangements. Mark, now a cherished friend of the family, was also involved, helping wherever he could and becoming an essential part of the celebration. "Are you sure you're okay with all this?" Amanda asked Mark as they arranged the tables in the banquet hall. "I know it can be a bit overwhelming." "I'm more than okay," Mark replied, smiling. "It's a privilege to be here and be part of this. After everything we've been through, this celebration is more than deserved." David entered the room holding a bunch of papers. "We need to finalize Mark's speech for the reception," he said, his eyes twinkling. "We want everyone to know how much you mean to us." Mark nodded, a little nervous about speaking in public, but determined to do justice to his friend's trust. "I'll prepare something special. You deserve it." The following days were filled with activities. Amanda's dress was fitted, the flower arrangements arrived, and the food was carefully planned. Every detail of the wedding was designed to reflect the love and journey of the couple. On the eve of the wedding, David, Amanda, and Mark sat down for a quiet dinner together. "Tomorrow will be the most important day of our lives," said David, holding Amanda's hand. "And having Mark by our side makes it even more special." Mark smiled, touched. "You've given me more than I could ask for. Tomorrow, I want my speech to be a tribute to you and everything you stand for." The wedding day arrived with a special glow in the air. Amanda looked radiant in her white dress, and David couldn't stop smiling. Friends and family gathered to celebrate the couple's love, and the banquet hall was filled with joy and laughter. During the reception, after dinner, it was Mark's turn to speak. He walked up to the stage, took the microphone with trembling hands, and looked at the audience. "I never thought I'd be here speaking to so many wonderful people," he began, his voice filled with emotion. "David and Amanda found me at one of the darkest moments of my life and gave me a second chance. They showed me what true kindness is and helped me believe again in myself and in humanity." The audience was captivated, and many had tears in their eyes. "But there's something you don't know about David," Mark continued, taking a deep breath. "David, in his determination to help, discovered something about my past that I didn't even know. He found documents proving that I was falsely accused and that there's a larger criminal network behind it all." The room fell completely silent. All eyes were on Mark, who continued, "David not only helped clear my name, but also uncovered a conspiracy involving high levels of power. Thanks to him, not only was my life restored, but many others were saved as well." David looked at Mark, surprised and emotional. "I did what anyone would do for a friend," he said humbly. "You did more than that, David," Mark replied. "You showed the world what it means to be a true hero, and for that we all thank you." The applause filled the hall, and many came to congratulate Mark and David, expressing their gratitude and admiration. The night was a celebration not just of love, but also of courage and justice. Life went on, and David and Amanda continued their happy marriage. Mark was also rebuilding his life, now with renewed purpose. However, an unexpected event was about to shake this tranquility. David was on a business trip when he mysteriously disappeared. Amanda received a call from the company informing her that he hadn't arrived at the scheduled meeting and his phone was off. Desperate, she contacted the authorities and began a frantic search. Mark, feeling a debt of gratitude for everything David had done for him, decided to help Amanda in the search. They began investigating together, retracing David's steps and talking to everyone who might have information. "It doesn't make sense for him to disappear like this," Amanda said, holding a map of the city and marking the last places David was seen. "He's always been so responsible." "We'll find him, Amanda," Mark said with determination. "I owe it to him, and to you." The search led them to discover a series of clues pointing to a corruption network that David had exposed earlier, the same network that had falsely accused Mark in the past. They realized that David might have been kidnapped to silence him and prevent him from revealing more information. "He got involved in something big," Mark said, while examining documents that David had secretly kept. "We need to be careful, but we can't give up." The investigation led them to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Amanda and Mark decided to explore the place, despite the risks. The tension was palpable as they approached the dark and gloomy building. "Are you sure this is the place?" Amanda asked, looking around nervously. "Yes, all the clues lead to this place," Mark replied. "Let's go in." They found a partially open door and cautiously entered the warehouse. The interior was dark and dusty, but there were signs of recent activity. In a corner, they found a locked room. Mark used his newly acquired skills to open the door, revealing a pile of incriminating documents. "This is huge," Amanda said, flipping through the papers. "David was about to expose something very big." "We need to get this to the authorities," Mark said, "but first we need to find David." As they continued to explore the warehouse, they heard a faint groan. Following the sound, they found a locked door with a padlock. With a precise strike, Mark broke the padlock and opened the door. Inside, they found David, tied up and visibly weak, but alive. Amanda ran to him, tears of relief streaming down her face. "David, thank God you're okay." David looked at them, relieved but with a sense of urgency. "They know you're here. We need to leave now." With Mark's help, David managed to stand up. They left the warehouse as quickly as possible, knowing that the criminal network's henchmen could be on their way. Adrenaline was pumping through their veins as they ran through the dark night trying to escape unnoticed. "We need to find a safe place," Mark said, as they ran through the deserted streets. "I know someone who can help us." They headed to a small apartment in the city center, belonging to an old friend of Mark's. "This is Kevin, an investigative journalist," Mark explained. "He can help us get this out." Kevin received them cautiously, but soon realized the seriousness of the situation. "You did the right thing coming here," he said. "Let's expose these criminals and make sure everyone knows the truth." Kevin immediately began working, verifying the documents and preparing an explosive story. David and Amanda stayed by his side, providing all the information they had. Mark, in turn, kept watch, ensuring that no one found them before they were ready. After an intense week of work, Kevin was finally ready to publish the story. The article revealed the depth of the corruption and how David had been kidnapped to prevent the truth from coming out. The publication caused a real stir in the city, and the authorities were forced to act. Several members of the criminal network were arrested, and David's reputation was restored. Mark was also hailed as a hero, not only for helping save David, but for his own story of injustice and redemption. With the threat now removed, David and Amanda could finally breathe a sigh of relief. "I never thought we'd go through something like this," Amanda said, hugging David tightly. "We're in this together," David replied, kissing her forehead. "And with Mark by our side, I know we can face anything." Life slowly returned to normal. David and Amanda continued their marriage with even more love and gratitude, and Mark became a beloved figure in the community. He began working with organizations that helped the homeless and those falsely accused, using his own experience to inspire and support others. "You've changed our lives, Mark," David said at a celebration dinner. "And now you're changing the lives of many others." "You gave me the chance to do this," Mark replied, smiling, "and for that I'll be eternally grateful." Time passed, and the connection between Amanda and Mark turned into something deeper. They shared a bond that went beyond friendship, and their feelings began to blossom. One day, while walking in the park, Amanda stopped and looked into Mark's eyes. "I have to tell you something," she began, her heart racing. "I feel something more for you, something I can't ignore anymore." Mark looked at her tenderly. "I do too, Amanda, but I never wanted to interfere in your life with David." "David knows," she said, smiling. "He sees what we have and supports us. Our bond is unique, and he wants us to be happy." With David's support, Amanda and Mark started a new chapter in their lives. They were determined to build a future together, never forgetting the past that brought them together. Years passed, and Amanda and Mark built a happy life together. They got married and continued their work in social justice. One day, while walking through the streets of the city, they spotted a familiar figure. "David!" Amanda called out, running towards the man. He was dirty and worn, but unmistakably David. "I don't know who I am," he said, his voice trembling. "I don't remember anything." Amanda and Mark took David home and began to care for him. Gradually, with love and patience, they helped him regain his memories. It was a long and painful process, but little by little, David began to remember who he was and what he had been through. Over time, David recovered most of his memories. He remembered the kidnapping, the escape, and the life on the streets. The constant presence of Amanda and Mark by his side was crucial to his recovery. "You saved me," he said, in a moment of clarity. "I was lost, but you brought me back." "We're here for you, David," Mark said. "We always will be." The friendship and love between them grew even stronger. David decided to join Amanda and Mark in their social justice work, dedicating his life to helping others who had suffered injustices. Amanda, Mark, and David formed an unbeatable team. Together, they helped transform the lives of many people, showing that kindness and justice can prevail. They opened a support center for victims of injustice, offering shelter, legal assistance, and emotional support. Their story inspired everyone who crossed their path, and the center became a symbol of hope. Amanda, Mark, and David learned that, despite adversities, love and friendship can heal even the deepest wounds. They continued to live and work together, dedicating their lives to making the world a better place. And so they found a new beginning together.